So one of my favorite quotes when it comes to this material is, "I cast the brush aside. From now on, I will talk to the moon face to face." And the reason that I love this quote when we talk about polyvagal theory and EMDR is because both of these models, EMDR and polyvagal theory, both focus on the functioning of the nervous system. And they recognize that the nervous system speaks to us in many, many ways through symptoms. And if we kind of cast the DSM aside, if we cast, all of this research and scientific content aside, not that like we're throwing that out the window, all very important, but we focus on the nervous system. We focus on what the nervous system is communicating to us through symptoms. Now we're really talking to the system that is experiencing strain and struggle, that's creating all of these symptoms that have driven your clients to come into therapy face to face. Because it is all about our neurobiology. As therapists, as helpers, as healers, we treat the nervous system. That is a system you treat. If you go to a cardiologist, they treat your heart. If you go to the dentist, they treat your teeth, right? You go to a podiatrist, they treat your feet. Therapists treat the nervous system, because all clinical complaints, all happiness and health and wellness are all functions of neurobiology. And so while as therapists, we don't have the opportunity, we don't have the privilege to put our clients into MRIs and PET scans to really see how is their nervous system functioning. Someday, maybe we will all have PET scans in our clinical offices. That would be amazing. But in absence of those kinds of scientific forms of gathering data, that is the standard. If you go to a cardiologist, they're going to use an EKG to check your heart and a stethoscope to listen to your heart. And the dentist is going to get out their tools and an x-ray to look at your teeth. But we don't have those instruments. So in place of those kinds of metrics, we can integrate models, therapies, orientations that really focus on the functioning of the nervous system. So we cast the brush aside, and using polyvagal theory and EMDR, we are talking to the moon face to face. So you don't just think your memories, you feel your memories. And the reason I make note of this in this slide is because polyvagal theory really helps us to understand our feelings and bodily sensations that we experience, especially in reference to unresolved traumatic experiences. And EMDR is a memory-based therapy. So EMDR is not just for PTSD or just for trauma. It is shown to be effective and useful for any kind of experience that has gotten stuck and is causing yuck. And the reason EMDR is effective with things that are stuck and causing yuck is because it focuses on how we store memories and how unresolved, maladaptively stored memories lead to kind of chronic hijacking of our neurobiology. And that chronic hijacking happens because of our autonomic nervous system and the role that the vagus nerve plays in activating various pathways or circuits of our autonomic nervous system. So it's not just memories, it's also the autonomic processes that are really integrated that make up kind of this mixture of distress and dis-ease that clients experience when they're suffering from unresolved trauma. So let's just experiment with this idea a little bit, that you don't just think your memories, you're feeling your memories. So I invite you to think of a food that you really dislike. Well, it's a food you just can't stand. And call that food to mind and notice what happens in your body as you think of it. Maybe you get a grimace on your face, you want to stick out your tongue, your stomach does something, right? Now I invite you to think of a food that you love, like one of your favorite foods or something you're really craving right now. And notice what in your body tells you that you like that food. Okay, you can let all that go. Maybe you're like, I'm going to run to the kitchen now and get a brownie or whatever you were thinking of. But the reason I bring this up is because you have memories of both of those foods, right? To be able to actually think of these foods that you like or don't like requires a memory, knowledge, experience of those foods, right? But it wasn't just your brain that said, I don't like this food. It was what happened in your body that said, I don't like this food. I do like this food. So like mine is bananas. If I just eat I just hate eating bananas. Look, I can put them in a smoothie, but I can't stand bananas otherwise. Like I just feel that. And my body tells me I do not like this food. I do not crave this food. I do not want this food, right? But when you think about a food that you really like, your body tells you, because maybe you your mouth starts to salivate, your stomach grumbles, you feel like, I really want that Oreo, or, oh gosh, I would love some cucumbers right now. I don't know, whatever it is, right? So the reason that I bring this up is because it is this interaction between your memories of actually eating those foods, and the autonomic processes that they evoke that tell you, do I like it or do I not like it, right? So the way that we apply this to trauma work is that experiences that get stuck and cause yuck do so because they get maladaptively stored in our brain. So something is overwhelming to us, it's traumatic, it's really scary, it's really dangerous, and that impedes our capacity to consolidate and integrate that experience to a point of resolution. And so that memory, the way it gets stored, activates our autonomic nervous system. So when we're at the grocery store and the clerk gives us a funny look, all of a sudden we are back in our kitchen when we're 10 years old with our mother telling us that we are not good enough, right? And while that clerk didn't tell you you're not good enough, it was something about that clerk's face that activated that memory network that led to all that distress in the autonomic nervous system. So in EMDR therapy, EMDR really specifically focuses on the storage of memories. But EMDR does not explain what happens in the autonomic nervous system. And so this is where integrating these two models gives us a whole picture, a whole framework for understanding how memories are stored and how we work with maladaptively stored memories, and how the autonomic nervous system reacts to memories that are adaptively or maladaptively stored. When we know a memory is integrated to a point of adaptive resolution, you know it because when you think of it, it doesn't cause you a lot of upset in your nervous system, right? So that memory of food felt good in your nervous system. And so you know that that's not a memory that's going to be hijacking you and causing all of this autonomic distress of fight and flight and freeze and collapse responses, right? But when a memory is not adaptively stored, when it's maladaptively integrated, it leads to all this hijacking in our autonomic nervous system. So this is essentially what the focus of polyvagal informed EMDR is this integration of the autonomic nervous system and memory storage. So we can understand the nervous system is one huge system, but in the scientific community, we break down the nervous system into kind of key branches so that we can better understand how the nervous system functions and different roles that branches play. So EMDR really focuses on the brain, which is where memories are stored, which is the central nervous system. But because you don't just think your memories, you feel your memories. You feel your memories through everything that they activate in your body. Right? So you know that something is a trigger because your heart starts racing, or your stomach feels queasy, or you feel an inability to move. You feel tired and lethargic, or like you're going to have a panic attack. And all of that is made possible by the autonomic nervous system that runs through the body. And the autonomic nervous system is a branch of the peripheral nervous system. So EMDR and polyvagal theory really help us to understand the functioning of both, of how the whole nervous system responds to trauma and what the whole nervous system needs to heal.